Choose life. Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose to make fresh, bold films. Choose to take on the Olympic opening ceremony. If you haven't guessed yet, I'm talking about director Danny Boyle, our very own Oscar-winning maverick, all-round cultural champion, and, as of last summer, self-effacing national treasure. I caught up with Danny to discuss his new film Trance, London 2012's Afterglow, and the highs and lows of a remarkable filmmaking career. Danny, welcome to the Culture Show. At the end of the screening of Trance, I was very theatrically handed a letter, which was a signed letter from you that said, now that you've seen the film, do not reveal its secret. So I'm going to throw this to you to say, what can you tell us about Trance?
What I can tell you about it is that it appears to be about the theft of a painting.
Stop right there.
Which appears to involve James McAvoy, even though he's actually one of the junior auctioneers at the house that the painting is stolen from.
Where is it?
I can't remember!
That you remember.
Vincent Cassell and the gang who again appear to be responsible for this theft get involved with a hypnotist from Harley Street, played by Rosario Dawson.
Have you ever been hypnotized before?
Whatever is in his head can find it.
And they set about using hypnotism to try and recover the painting from the convoluted memories or the amnesia that James McAvoy appears to be suffering as a result of the heist that goes wrong. And actually what's really been stolen are some memories.
There's something hidden. Save me. This is it.
It's a memory.
A memory?
A memory of what you did.
This film has a resemblance to Memento, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Inception, those kind of mind films. You know, the mind is the scene of the crime. But also it's the classic set up two guys and a girl within a bubble, and a bubble of their own making.
What can you make them do?
Anything.
And the film darkens, of course, as it goes on. And that was a great antidote to our other job last year, which was the Olympic opening ceremony, which you have to be terribly responsible.
As artistic director of London 2012's grand opening, Danny delivered an ingeniously left-field celebration of Britain that captivated viewers worldwide. Entitled Isles of Wonder, even the most cynical of us Brits were transfixed. Tell me now what significance it has for you. Is it, as everyone wants to imagine, the proudest moment of your life, or where does it sit for you now?
The Olympics could have been a disaster,
Quite easily. In fact, a lot of people were expecting it to be a disaster. And our philosophy on it actually was very simple. We thought if we get enough good people doing this work, it might not be shite. And that was the limit of our ambitions at the time, because everybody was so certain that it would be shite. Danny rightly felt confident accepting the role of artistic director when first approached in June 2010.
When they offered it to me, I thought, yeah, I'm quite qualified for that. I kind of live in the area, I'm a sports fanatic, and I have a kind of enough authority, thanks to the films, to be able to force through, you know, what we wanted to do with it, our kind of vision of it. But it's never been something you wanted to trade off now, you know, use now in any other way other than it sits on its own, and that's it really, and it's a lovely thing. The great thing about it was the celebration of the National Health Service, and both my parents worked in the National Health Service, and you see that and you just think, home run for the team. When you get that kind of job where you're asked to look at ourselves, there are certain institutions that reflect that. The people who played the volunteers' roles in that were people from the National Health Service, and they were working shift work under incredible strain from their managers, pissed off about the amount of time they were taking off to be at the Olympics and do these kind of things. And that makes you go, yeah, these people are, I'm worried about, how hard I'm working. These people are working much, much harder. So it's kind of mutually inspiring. And so we kind of built that atmosphere, really. To be honest, they had that anyway. You would have had to have been a bit of a twat, really, to negate it.
One of the biggest surprises on the night was the Queen's pre-recorded cameo alongside 007.
Good evening, Mr. Bond. Good evening, Your Majesty.
But Danny recently declined a knighthood for his Olympic extravaganza.
Why did you turn down the honour that they offered you?
Listen, I get embarrassed when people say Mr. Boyle, so, you feel like... And
So Danny would have been funny, though.
More and more people say Mr. Boyle, and it's like, that's enough to deal with, to be honest. I'm just not that kind of person, really.
The inspiration for his Olympic vision and the honours list sidestep can be traced back to his childhood. Born in 1956 in Radcliffe, Lancashire, he grew up in a working-class Irish Catholic family that was staunchly left-wing.
Actually, going right back to your earliest years, it seems to me that your upbringing gave you a sense of responsibility. You had, certain political awarenesses that you got from your parents.
Yeah, I think your values do. I think some of your values do come from, you inherit from your parents and your family. I was very much influenced by my mom, who wanted me to, would have loved me to be a priest. She had such a respect for the priesthood, and I was prepared to go to a seminary. And a priest, actually, who was at the school I went to, the grammar school I was at, taught me out of it, said, I think you're probably not cut out for that, you should wait and see. And then this other teacher called Mr. Unsworth, who's an English teacher, kind of came much more into the foreground, as far as I could see, almost simultaneously. And it developed this interest in literature and then drama. We'd do plays at school, and I began to get relished that, and that's when you found it, And he said, I think you should try and do this at college. You should have a go at it at college, because I didn't know what to do. Coming from my background, it was like, you'd use your school to a good education, which is what I got. So I don't know, to get a decent job, like a teacher or something like that.
Danny first made his name in the theatre before moving on to BBC Northern Ireland's drama department, working as a producer and hiring himself as a director.
But I was looking to try and get a film made. Eventually I got sent the script, which was doing the rounds around, and they were looking for a director, and these couple of young guys, a producer and a writer, John Hodge, and his producer, Andrew MacDonald, and they were interviewing directors. And I read the script, and it was quite clearly way out there beyond anything else I'd read. And I went in for the interview, and I met them, and I was very honest. I've always tried to be. I said it was a remarkable script, brilliantly written, and I said I thought the ending needed work, and the other thing I said was I thought most of it was stolen from the Coen brothers. And John was like, yeah, John appreciated that honesty, because it was influenced by the Coen brothers, by Blood Simple, but it was its own beast as well.
Falling through the bone.
He got the job, and work began on Shallow Grave, a noirish thriller shot through with violence, attitude, and very dark humour.
The room's nice too, don't you think?
Yes.
Spacious, bright, well appointed, all that sort of stuff. All that sort of crap.
Well, yes.
Yes, so tell me, Cameron, just tell me, because I'd like to know, what on earth could make you think we'd want to share a flat like this with someone like you?
I mean, he writes in a way, there's no description, it's just dialogue. You can do what you want with the scenario, it's up to you.
I'd like to ask you about your hobbies.
Why do you want to room here?
Do you smoke?
No.
Danny cast Ewan McGregor in his first major film role, starring alongside Christopher Eccleston and Kerry Fox as yuppie flatmates on a downward spiral.
And the three of them were wonderful together. Again, three great parts, locked inside their own world, the bubble, and how they were going to manipulate each other.
It's a sick idea, Alex. It's sick. Yeah, but don't tell me you're not tempted.
And it looks astonishing. The whole thing about the flat is slightly too big.
This was what it was like to work with a proper cinematographer. It was, you learn so much quickly. It's just adrenaline or oxygen you're receiving from them about how to make a thing look good. And that led us to be very bold, and we decided to make the flat the whole landscape of the film. So we overbuilt it in size to give ourselves freedom to move around it. be able to place them in a landscape of colour. Unfortunately, the story was strong enough and the performances by, well, two of them turned out to be, masters of the universe, Doctor Who and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Kerry Fox, who was the real reason we got the money for the film at the time.
That's right, she was the bankable star.
And it was about friendship and trust and money.
It was an arresting debut that proved British cinema could once again be populist, anarchic and violent. But most importantly, it secured Danny and his team backing for their second outing, Trainspotting.
Choose life, choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a fucking big television, choose one.
An intoxicating adaptation of Irving Welsh's novel, Trainspotting vividly brought to life the story of a ragtag group of Scottish heroin addicts and became a defining cultural moment for an entire generation. Why was it, you think, that Trainspotting had such an impact and that people still now look back at that as the touchstone film of that period?
A lot of it, obviously all of it, is you can blame Irving Welsh's book. It's a wonderful book. Still, it is Joycean, I think, in its thrall, and its ambition. And I think John knew straight away, I can't adapt that. I'll just be inspired by it. And it was the commitment to the book, I think, inspired everyone. Ewan, shaved his head. Now, at the time he's a young actor, he's got this beautiful hair, and that's his selling card. It's period drama he could slip in and out of, he could look the business, and he shaved it, he lost all this weight, so he looked like a ghost.
It's shite being Scottish! With the lowest of the low!
I think the costumes are kind of timeless. Because you look at it now and they look cool. They still look fine. They don't look idiotic like normally you do when you look back on a film 15 years later.
You talk about the novel as being important, but there are three visual sequences in that film that have entered the lexicon of modern film. It's the opening of him running down the street to the sound of Lust for Life. There's the scene of him going down the toilet in which you went as far as you could before going into a sort of ethereal dream. And then, of course, there's the overdose sequence, which has become the thing that everyone remembers. Talk me through that sequence.
I think the idea of him sinking into the floor comes from the book, and that was how he described the feeling of it. And we thought, well, why can't we do that?
Just a perfect day.
The book isn't really about nature, as realism. It's actually about the nature of your imagination, of your mind, what happens to you, and obviously the drugs and how they affect that. And you want to try and represent that and surprise people. And the other thing was that the drug of choice at the time was ecstasy, which was a very, very different sensibility to heroin. Although these guys are heroin addicts, the film has a sensibility that's a bit more adrenaline-based, a bit more ecstasy-based, if you like, rave-based.
Yeah, that was speed. It's just a tick, am I?
No, I mean Craig Newton. I just about doing it at Royal Edinburgh College to help get the job. There's too much discrimination in this tune, man.
There's also the completely counterintuitive use of Born Slippy at the end in a sequence in which somebody is creeping out of the flat, and then there's doom, doom, doom.
Once you read the book, you kind of felt this passage of time. It was described through the music they were listening to, and you could feel it through Iggy Pop and then the Clash, and so we felt like we could take the lead from the book, and if you listen to the music, it basically just updates the present day, and the present day song was Born Slippy.
You were once criticised early on in your career as making films that looked like a collection of 3-minute pop videos put together, and your reply was, yeah, and?
Yeah, no, it's kind of because I I love that. I think that was really attractive, and I think also at the time when that criticism was made, MTV was just starting, and I think people, and it's in this country particularly, were kind of hostile to things like that sometimes because it feels like it's Americanizing or degrading the art or something. But I always found it enormously attractive.
The truth is that I'm a bad person, but that's going to change. I'm going to change.
Trainspotting was part of an explosion in British creative confidence, with Danny hailed as the new king of cinematic cool. Doors to big Hollywood stars and money men would now open, but it was always going to prove a hard act to follow.
After the euphoric success of those two, and I don't mean to criticise, but you have Life Less Ordinary, which didn't work quite as well as it should have done, and then The Beach, which you yourself have said is a difficult experience. What do you think it was about Life Less Ordinary that was problematic?
Oh, I know exactly what was problematic about it. It was our arrogance, really. John had written a script, and it was set in France and Scotland.
Yeah.
And we just decided, in our arrogance, we'll just move that to America. That'll be fine. We'll just do that because it'll be then it can be a big hit in America.
Action! A Life Less Ordinary saw McGregor appear this time as a hapless kidnapper who falls for his own hostage, a wealthy ball breaker played by Cameron Diaz.
I'm the victim, and you are the kidnapper, apparently.
Meaning exactly what?
Kidnap for Beginners? Chapter 1. Have you even asked for a ransom yet?
I think the script was also much more violent, and we reduced that again. And it's the way it creeps. It kind of softens you. Success, you think, we could do that, we just soften that a bit more, we'll have even more success. And we can bring that sensibility to so many more people. And in fact, the sensibility is what you're sacrificing in order to get it to those people.
I remember seeing it in the preview screening and thinking, it just looks compromised. And that wasn't something that was true of either Shallow Grave or Trainspotting. They were not compromised.
I know, and it's something you have to confront in your filmmaking career, if you have a career, if it's ongoing. I mean, the thing I did love about it is if you have a big flop, which Life Less Ordinary was, there's always a country where it's a success. And I'm delighted to say it was #1 in Belgium for 3 weeks. So there you go.
The all-important Belgian market.
Despite this abortive adventure, Danny's stock still remained high, and when the chance arose to cast the megastar of Titanic in The Beach, it proved impossible to resist. Leonardo DiCaprio was in, Ewan McGregor out, a decision that sparked a long-term rift.
We hadn't learnt from Life Less Ordinary, sufficiently anyway, and we still thought the way to make the films was to actually get the ingredients that would allow you more resources. So we took the script to Leonardo DiCaprio, and we had hinted to Ewan that it would be his part, and I think we dealt with that very, very, very badly. Not proud of that at all.
DiCaprio's involvement ensured a $50 million budget, dwarfing Danny's normal resources. But it wasn't an environment in which he thrived, and The Beach ended up as a serviceable but somewhat uninspired film.
After that, I made a couple of very small television films with a different setup, and they were kind of more like what you call guerrilla filmmaking, I suppose. And I learned that was what I really enjoyed. The oil tanker riches, which directors like Chris Nolan, Ridley Scott used to extraordinary effect, was not what I was best at inhabiting. And we took that sensibility then to this new film, 28 Days Later.
A pulsating post-apocalyptic horror, 28 Days Later starred Cillian Murphy. And was a welcome return to pioneering form for Danny.
And we made that for, again, a limited amount of money, but limitless ambition. And that's the equation, if you can do it. And you are surprisingly resourceful when you do that.
And it seems to me that kind of reinvigorated your filmmaking. After what I imagine must have been a depressing experience with The Beach, it was like you'd found your feet again.
Yeah, no, it was very exciting way to work. It was unpredictable and rough at times, but you felt like you were making the film day by day. And it was weird. We came up with a sequence at the beginning, which was like just a small bit of the script, but expanded into 10 minutes of the opening of the film, which is he wanders around London on his own, which he thought, that's beyond the resources of that kind of film.
The extraordinary thing about that opening is you think they must have stopped the traffic for like a day.
Unless you've got mega bucks, you can't really stop the traffic on Westminster Bridge. The police will let you ask motorists not to cross for a couple of minutes, and that's it. So he surround the bridge with cameras, which you can leave running. You just switch on and leave running.
Yeah.
And he walks across it once, which takes him 2 minutes. Then you let the traffic go. But you've got this series of angles which make you feel like it's like, what's the rush? There's no rush about anything. It's like, this is going to take forever, isn't it? Because there's nobody here. No! And we cut that sequence together, and you just knew this was going to be good. I don't know, you could just tell it's funny. Sometimes you make a film and it's like, there's nothing you can do. You're just labouring away. And at other times it's kind of sort of effortless, really.
There are also, in your back catalogue, the films which I really love but didn't find the audience that perhaps they deserve to. One of them is Millions. Of course, you were raised as a Catholic.
Yeah.
I know that you're not religious now, but that is clearly playing itself out to some extent in that film.
Yes, I think it is there. Millions is written by Frank Cottrell Boyce, and so it's weird to call it a personal film, but actually we worked so closely together on it, and it was very precious, because it was very much about our relationships with our mothers, and also about the role that imagination plays in a kid who's not very good with money. And the kid's imagination is full of religious iconography.
Yeah, he's visited by visions of saints.
Yeah, which is all his life's full of at that time, because his mum made sure, or used to make sure, went to church and all that kind of stuff.
St. Peter died AD 64.
All right, don't remind us.
The money, it's robbed.
And who? Patron saint of keys, locks and general security, man. Including up there.
But his mind will fill with different imagery as he gets older. You know, he's a fledgling artist, if you like. He's got somebody who's going to express himself visually or literary or however he's going to do it. He will.
Is he you?
I rather romantically think of myself as that kid. Yeah. And he's gorgeous as well, which I never was. So it's like typical kind of director casting.
One, go, go! One, go, go, go!
Danny's spiritual preoccupations at this time carried over into Sunshine, an ambitious foray into science fiction.
What's Sunshine about, really?
It's the search for what we are, where do we come from? The end of the film is completely surreal because Killian's character, Kappa, virtually touches the surface of the sun. He's able to see something there that we're all search for in a way. It's got a spirituality to it, which just hovers in there, really.
Are you an atheist or an agnostic?
I think I'm probably a very, very flexible, malleable atheist, really.
Sweeping the religious hangovers of his youth to one side, Danny now turned to a story that, in his hands, would transform into a kaleidoscopic cinematic masterpiece.
All the lessons that you'd learned during your career seem to come together in Slumdog. The working with children, which obviously you've done to some extent with Millions, the recognising a script, the importance of music, and of course getting us right at the beginning of the film, right in those streets. You've never seen something as street level as that before.
We took a crew of there were about 10 of us went and made the film there because it's made by an Indian crew, and that was a huge lesson in being able to capture some of it faithfully, And because we didn't take a huge crew, we were able to get closer to it. All life is there, really, just that it's just acute, it's so acute. And you just got to spend a lot of time in the slums, what they call the slums. And people begin to realise that you're not just some arsehole, that you're genuinely interested in the way that life is lived there, and you're going to try and reflect that.
The other thing that surprises me is the poster campaign which said the feel-good film of the and I thought, did you see the same film as me? I mean, I love Slumdog Millionaire, but feel-good wasn't the word that immediately leapt into my mind, because you are, it's not a romanticised version of those streets.
Yeah, bits of the film are pretty tough. You have to leave the marketing to someone else. You say what you think, and we said what you think and what we thought. Because I remember the poster that Pathé produced was this white poster with feel-good film, and Dev was kind of going, yay, with a huge smile on his face. And I said to them, I said, listen, I tried to get Dev to smile in the film once, and he wouldn't. He was like, and I said, anyway, white is the colour of death in India. Why are you using... And they said it doesn't matter. This is about bus stops in Leeds on a January night.
The film had a brutal yet touching love story at its heart, something Danny had avoided since the problems of a life less ordinary over a decade before.
What's your favourite scene in Slumdog Millionaire?
There's a wonderful sequence at the end where he crosses the railway station, and it's intercut with memories, really. And you feel this romantic build where you're completing the journey of a lifetime. That was pretty special, really. I remember outrageously selling the film as a mixture of Trainspotting and Amelie. And then you ride at the end, and it is a fairy story in a way, and it is Amelie in a way, and it is about love, really.
The film was a massive hit, and despite some unjust criticism of how the younger actors have been looked after, it trounced all comers at the 2009 Oscars, winning 8 gongs including Best Director. But Danny seemed most excited when he brought the award back to Lancashire.
This is amazing, isn't it? I mean, you expect it at the red carpet in LA, but not outside Ratcliffe Club.
It was so wonderful to see the Oscar. It was quite an emotional moment, really, because it is such an iconic statue. It almost like something that's unobtainable to a family like us.
Having expertly captured the daily struggle for survival in Mumbai's heaving slums, Danny's next challenge was to bring the same dramatic intensity to the tale of a man trapped all alone in a claustrophobic Utah canyon. "127 Hours" was based on the real-life story of Aaron Ralston, who had to perform frankly hideous self-surgery to survive.
At the time, your contention, and indeed your main character's contention, was it's what anybody would have done. It isn't. I mean, had that been me, I would have just stayed there.
I don't think you can say that. You'd think that now, but I think you would have a go. And you wouldn't die there, Mark. You'd go, no, I'll do something about this. In the end, we would. People fainted and everything like that. But I think the surge that you feel when he sees that Dutch family in the distance makes you believe that in the end we'll always keep trying. No matter what your circumstances, you will always keep that belief that you can get there in some way. You decide your own fate. Don't give up. You decide.
Now in his mid-50s, Danny shows no signs of letting up, and after last summer, he's been repeatedly linked to the 007 hot seat.
The word that's been bandied around recently with you is Bond.
Well, no, I've done the Bond film.
No, we've
done that.
That's it. That's good. That's it. You feel
excellent. It was a really short engagement, and it was kind of like released to great applause. That's grand.
You wouldn't do a Bond feature.
Well, then again, I think that's the oil tanker. I think the way that those kind of films are huge, and they need a particular kind of captain. And I just know from my own experience that I'm not that guy, really. I'm much better. What I've always wanted to do is to try and actually make it look like $100 million, but it doesn't cost that. That's always, and I find that really actually liberating.
Danny, thank you very much.
Cheers, Mark. Very good. Very good, man. No notes, and you got the chronology almost exactly correct.